decided to come out the back today just to avoid any rigmarole in the lobby. It's Wednesday, March 4th, and is it the 4th? Or 5th? Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. March 5th. And we're expecting rain at some point today. I'm hoping it'll hold off until later. So I'm out here at 7-ish in the morning, and they said 54 degrees on Pico, and it's like perfect, the temperature. I have on a light coat, 2 layers, like I have on a shell and a light coat, and leggings or whatever, spandex, whatever you call them. And it's the perfect temperature. The sun's not out to make it hot or anything, so it's good. This is Moravian. Typically I don't walk down this street, but there's no one on it today. It has become a little bit of a haven for drugs and/or just homelessness in general. Should go straight ahead. We'll do the Moravian alley walk here as far as we can. It does go out to Broad, so I experienced a bout of homelessness myself. This was because of a very bizarre situation that actually began way back in 2011. I was made to believe I'd be murdered in my apartment the 4th Monday of January 2011. My mom and aunt's phone lines all the way down in Jacksonville, Florida were severed, so that when I tried to call them, I got the disconnected jingle. And ever since, I've been harassed relentlessly, as if I expose the beef industry. I don't consider myself a whistleblower, so I'm kind of curious, like, why I still have no idea why this kicked off or why certain people came into play. I thought I was in a happy place leading up to 2011, because one of my goals was to create a network of colleagues, friends, what have you, really like a community. Just because I was so used to a certain type of upbringing and being withdrawn because of it. So, instead of finding a whole bunch of people, I actually was semi-happy in 2010. I was like, this is good, because I have people who seem awesome and going to, like a Christmas party here and there or whatever. Meeting up, doing this, doing that. But all HE double toothpicks broke loose, and all those people appeared to be playing along. It's hard to explain. I wondered, like, I kind of had this, I was like, there's no way this many people could be knowingly part of whatever this thing is, this harassment machine. It's hard to explain. I don't even love using the word harassment, because people just see it as complaining, but you would know it if you were hit big time. So anyway, all these years later, I wound up semi-homeless. People would see it as basically homeless. My dog walks dwindled, and by the end of 2017, I was unable to pay rent normally, so I couldn't figure out what to do. It's also hard to explain that if the universe would send someone in to sort of tell someone what to do, I was told to get a U-Haul van, and I piled the U-Haul van, with all my belongings, left the apartment, and stayed in the U-Haul van for 5-6 weeks. So from December 4th to Martin Luther King Day of January 2018, when it was towed on a holiday, no less, in a lane that's only towable during rush peak hours, but no one was working that day. So for the most part, the city is closed. But anyway, had to tow the van out. I had to try to get it out, but technically I kept charging the van on my credit card. Luckily I had a large enough balance for that. but it had reached its limit. So then I wasn't allowed to get the van out. So that was weird because I felt like I was in trouble. It's hard to explain, but then I called around to 50 million people and I hopped around staying at different people's homes, kind of like for 2 nights, 3 nights. The Eagles won the Super Bowl back then in 2018, and I was in someone's house for like a week and a half, but it was a junky, sophomoric, crappy house. Then I wound up at, on the western edge of the 20th block of Apple Tree Street, there by the pizza place, and I stayed there for six-ish, like February to October, however long that is. So 7-ish months, between 6 and 8 months. Then I wound up in Florida. Are we doing Sansom or? Then I wound up in Florida. I stayed there for 2.5 years, and then I had to come back here. Thank God for Outfits Like Shipped, which helped me save enough money to stash away so that I could afford to return here. My mom, dad, and aunt passed away in 2020 and 2021. So all during the pandemic time period. And my cousins behaved very oddly, and they needed to sell the house, which technically was in my aunt's name because of her second husband. My aunt had 2 husbands who, did a lot of taking care of, so my mom wound up, alone and abandoned in 1972 because of a divorce, and everyone else having left, either, family members who moved down to Florida, and then her husband left for some woman, up the street who had a husband also, but they decided they were more suitable for each other, and abandoned their spouses for each other. So anyway, and in my mom and my sister's case, my dad sort of, some people would say abandon is a strong word. Those are people who love to get away with harming people, but it is an abandonment, even if they lived, within 10 miles of where we live. They wound up moving, and people felt sorry for them because they had to leave their houses. And I thought that was interesting, I think it's interesting. I was just a toddler at the time. I was 1.5 years old. 1 and 2 is when all this went down. I didn't turn 3 until December of 1973, and by then my dad and his second wife got married. And the divorce had happened in the 18 months prior. So so my mom's time of need, technically she was abandoned, and when you don't have a dad in the house, it is a form of abandonment, because then that person is paying a lot of attention to other people and maybe her children just by default. Like, you live with them and that becomes your life, as opposed to being there every day, every minute for your own kids.